Let's talk about the 4 most important things to know when starting out as a landscape photographer. Number 1 on the list, it's not gear. I know, it's disappointing. Everybody wants to jump into the gear, but the truth is that you can get started with an iPhone. You can use your camera or anything that you have, film, it doesn't matter, digital, whatever you have. The point is to get out there and get started. Look, we can spend our time fussing over gear or what gear we don't have, but the point is if you really want to get into landscape photography, don't worry so much about the gear, just get started. The exposure triangle is your friend. Put your camera in manual mode. Once you're there, you'll begin to understand the relationship between ISO, shutter speed, and aperture, and how they affect your composition, and how to control each one to get the most out of your image. The thing is, you can go shutter priority and aperture priority, and that makes things easy, but you let the camera make all the decisions. In manual mode, you decide what aperture to set, what shutter speed to set, and the ISO settings, and all of those have a bearing on the image. By controlling the aperture, you decide what's in focus and what's out of focus. You control the depth of field of your image. And as a landscape photographer, sometimes you want everything pin sharp, and other times you want some things to kind of be subtly out of focus and fade into focus. So it's important to understand how that functions, and you'll never grasp that as well as you would in any other mode than manual. In manual mode and having control of your shutter speed, you'll begin to understand what shutter speed to select in order to slow motion. For example, like a waterfall, you want to create motion in the waterfall. You do that with shutter speed. Or maybe you want to freeze motion, and that's something to consider. And when you're in manual mode, you have a lot more control over that. You're not letting the camera make the decision. ISO is another consideration. If your ISO is too high, you introduce too much noise in your image. If it's too low, you get unwanted motion blur in your leaves in the background. So there's a lot of things to think about. ISO is a tool that should be used like any other. Don't be afraid to use it, but if you're shooting in manual mode, you really start to begin to understand how ISO affects your image. If you have auto ISO set, the camera's going to make decisions, and you're going to find out later in post-processing that maybe you should have taken control of ISO. Number 3, composition is the beginning of a great photograph. Learn the rule of thirds. Begin to understand how to frame up your subject. These are the important things that you need to think about when you're just starting out. Look for leading lines. Change your perspective. Move around the scene. Look behind you. All those are good things. You could have a great sunrise, sunset right in front of you, and right behind you is the best light. So that's something to think about too. Look, composition trumps everything. In the big scheme of things, don't spend your time worrying about gear. Find interesting subjects to photograph. Spend money on traveling and find new locations and things to photograph, and focus your camera on a good composition. Number 4 is patience. And truly, it's probably the most difficult for all of us. I'm showing up to the scene early, and you know what? I'm going to hang out late because I want to make sure that I've got the right light for the composition. And you know what? Maybe I don't get any light, but you're going to get better results kind of planning out things and rather than just kind of hoping for the best. So patience is absolutely critical in landscape photography. I'd also be remiss if I didn't mention probably the most important thing of all, and that's have fun. Landscape photography is meant to be fun. So get your camera, get out, and enjoy yourself. Pitch up a hammock, relax for a little bit, make a day out of it. But most of all, have fun. Well, if you like this video, you may like another video I had. It's 5 pro tips to instantly improve your photography using any camera. Remember, it's not about the gear, it's about the composition, and it's about having fun. That's it. I got to head to my composition. So, hey, I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button and consider subscribing to the channel. And drop me a comment. Let me know your thoughts. And as always, if I don't see you down the road, maybe I'll see you somewhere out here on the trail.